Yeah. Thanks everybody for being here. It is good to be part of this community. I appreciate it. And let's begin. Well, what a surprise. Great to see you both. Um, how many people know of Krishnamurti? Couple, couple people. Um, Super interesting dude and did a lot to integrate mindfulness and spiritual philosophy into education. And I ran into a quote from him the other day that that I thought was super interesting, and I wanted to kind of start with that and to get some people's reflections on what he brought up, and then we'll meditate, and that's our plan. So he was talking about, he warned us that meditation could become another form of just going through the motions. It's like spiritually going through the motion. And there's this danger of the more we practice, the more the brain just becomes mechanical. So even like these incredibly sacred things, or these very, what we think of as very spiritual things, um, or working for a spiritual organization, how that can just become a job. And then we're missing the, like the juice leaves. Like I remember feeling this at Diamond Mountain a lot, like being inspired to volunteer, being inspired to really plug into a spiritual organization and a mission that I really believed in, and having a teacher that I really believed in, and really, you know, I loved what I was doing there, and I loved what we were creating, and I loved how it was helping people. But then it's like 3 weeks of putting down water line to the cabins or digging ditches through incredibly ridiculously hard desert rock. And it just becomes easy for it to become a job. And now I'm not really serving, I'm not really volunteering, I'm just doing my job that happens to be at a spiritual center, right? I'm doing a job that happens to be directed by a spiritual teacher. And so his point is that meditation can become like that. And it's just another habit that we do as the brain's learned a pattern. And even if he said, even if the routine kind of feels spiritual, the mind inside is just going through the motions. So even if we have a sense of I'm meditating and that's a spiritual thing, he says the routine begins to feel spiritual while the mind is still moving inside the same old machinery. And so we're going through the motions. Like I don't know, I hope I'm not the only person that does this. It's like you're doing your I've done water bowls a lot in my life. And there's times when I've really, really loved that practice and got a lot out of it. And then there's times when, the last water bowl is done and I haven't thought about anything. The water bowls are filled and um, I was just on autopilot. It's like spiritual autopilot. And I think that the breath practice or meditation in general can also be like that, where we're just going through spiritual autopilot. I think one of the places I've got stuck in the stages is being at level 3 or 4, where I can get very comfortable in not losing the object. And but not really striving to keep gross distractions in the background. Not trying to not trying to prevent subtle distractions from being gross distractions. So the breath can be there and I can think about all sorts of things quite enjoyably. And that's one example of just this kind of, for me, like a spiritual autopilot. So my question is, how do we prevent that? And I'd like to ask you all. I'm hoping I'm not the only, I mean, maybe I am hoping I'm the only person that feels this, but if you've felt like that before, what do you do about it? How do you prevent that? I'd love to hear other people's ideas and then we'll meditate. Ivan, diligence, what does it mean?
Well, hi everyone. Yeah, I've been catching myself on exactly what you're saying, Earl. And by that time, I was telling myself, look, either you practice really, really, really hard, or you're just wasting the time because you can easily stand up and go. You're not progressing. And then that kind of was making me to make a choice. Either I would sit comfortably, as you mentioned, in my level 3, 4, and the object is there, that's fine, and I'm just doing nothing pretty much, sitting on my butt and doing nothing, or I will try to increase focus and try to fight the subtle distractions. At least that works for me. That what I would call diligence, like to put some effort into the practice.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Remy, what do you got?
Yeah, I can totally relate to meditating on autopilot and
Sorry to hear that.
going through, yeah, going through the motion of like sitting down, but actually just thinking about stuff and be like, okay, that was my practice today. And what to do about it? That's very, very interesting. I feel it's like such a fascinating problem because it's so hard to tackle in some ways. But I guess I don't really know what to do about it. But I guess one of the things I'm trying is sort of remembering the why, like why am I doing this?
Mm,
And then it comes back to the motivation and be like, oh right, that's really important. And because it's important, that changes the quality of my attention as I go through it again. And so it's sort of coming back to the original reason. I mean, there was a time where we were motivated. And so if only we could go back in that mental state, perhaps we would find back the same vividness and original motivation. Thank you.
love it. Cool. M Stack, what do you got?
I love this question. And I've been thinking about it lately of like what Remy is saying with motivation, uh, coming back to this preciousness of being guided. Like I can get into an autopilot or take for granted being taught. And lately, I've been confronted with the proposition of what if I have to give it away? What if I have to teach it? And can I practice in that way? Can I have a direct experience that I can share? That I can like? There's this intrigue and excitement with like, let me walk down every cobblestone road of my mind and encounter every obstacle and every antidote and build a relationship with it because I want to be able to share it really meaningfully, helpfully. Because what if and when I'm not guided anymore directly? What then? What if what if it's up to me? Uh, and that feels sort of heartbreakingly tender. Um, And so then in meditation, what that's felt like is like really imagining my teacher, my teachers, my family, my loved ones, but also the people I haven't met yet or the people who are like relying on me. Uh, and just sitting with them and like breathing the same breath in an exchange. Um, and the sensation, the texture of the breath changes with that point of view.
Mm. I've got some thoughts on that, but I want to just echo what Claire said, increasing vividness and interest. That's come up a few times for people, and harvesting joy in the breath. I think that's a superb answer. Laura and Hyan, do you guys want to share? Do you want me to read it out? I'd love to hear from you. And Hyan, it's great to see you.
Likewise. Yeah, I also just very much relate to, I think actually the water bowls is a really good example of something that I did and then like lost interest in and had no idea why I was doing it. And or just any practice, that you do repeatedly. And I've been really playing with this idea of when there's like too much focus for me on just like the action itself or the technique of it, like bringing in more sweetness. And so like
Mm.
for me, that looked like really expanding what I was doing at my altar beyond just the water bowls and like adding even more to that action so that I could really remember the like meaning behind doing that practice. And I find that's useful in my meditation as well. Uh, and sometimes I don't need it as much, but sometimes when it does feel like dry or rote, I have to bring, yeah, like more um, essentially love to it. But I think of it as like more ritual, more
Mm.
magic.
Yeah.
Um, Perhaps to add to that, I think for me, like emptiness, thinking of that, or the mystery, which I would say, like the mystery of life, because it's so mysterious, it's so wonderful, and that always connects me back to what I'm doing on the cushion and looking at a tree or looking outside, looking at myself. And that just connects to the sense of wonder. And that always helps me come back when things get like that. So I just add that
Yeah.
with everything else.
Yeah, cool. Um, Aka, what do you got?
Yeah, I also wanted to add, of course, I have this often, this autopilot practicing when you recite mantra and you don't even hear the words, it just goes ba 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 like that. And once my student asked me, sell me meditation, you meditate, sell me, how would you sell it to me? And I was thinking what to say to her, all the benefits, you become more focused, your mind gets steady, and your thinking process is getting better. I was thinking what to say, and I said, no, 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 not that, not that. And I answered to her, every time I get up from the meditation cushion, I am 0.00001% better than I was before. And for me, I think this is the reminder when I get lost in distractions and thoughts or whatever. It always helps me to bring me back while I'm doing it. Like people say here, motivation. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. All right, we'll meditate in just a sec. I just wanted to reflect a couple of things. Maya, you're talking about, well, what if I don't have a teacher? What if that, or, are there times when we don't have a teacher in retreat or, lack of access or something changes? And it's very interesting in Krishnamacharya's world because that's a big point for him that that journey has to be a lot of like that path needs to be self-realized. Like we have to find the answers through our own experience. And that truth must be seen directly by an individual. And he's really kind of emphasized that in his life. And in his life, he really de-emphasized religion or de-emphasized reliance on a teacher or authority or a system, but only through like this deep self-inquiry, um, non-judgmental, what did he say? Non-judgmental self-observation of one's own mind. Like that. And yeah, so it's cool. Kind of a lot of what people shared reflects what who Krishnamacharya or Krishnamurti was. All right. Some common themes. Find the magic. Inquiry. And kind of what Hyan was saying, that was also Krishnamurti's thing too. There seems to be a connection between self-inquiry, understanding the lack of the self-existent nature of the self, and finding the magic within that that propels us down the spiritual path further with more enjoyment and more juice. So that's cool that that came up, and that was kind of his take also. Let's meditate. And so when we meditate today, let's try to, think of that thing of like, where are we going through the motions? At what point in the process are we just kind of going through a process that becomes mundane or autopilot or lacks that vividness, that reverence, that magic, or that self-inquiry that a lot of people shared in that process. Okay. Yeah. Take a stretch. Find your spot, find your seat. And maybe that is the first place that we start. Like, what is the right seat for me? And we can let that intrigue in that question right from the beginning. And then that seat gives us some stability. Ideally, we can park the body in the most conducive way to then forget about the body. And that turn that intrigue into the motivation. What brings you to the path today? What brings you to the cushion today? The class today? See if that microcosm motivation lines up with your macro motivation for wanting to meditate. How much of getting to the class or getting to the cushion today was just autopilot, which is okay. It's a good autopilot. Does it line up with a bigger vision? And then find the object and do that same process. Where of inquiry, where is that object, that sensation of breath? Not just out of habit, maybe look at it afresh. Maybe I've just been on autopilot and thought I knew where it was, but it's just become an idea or vague. We find it generally, and then the mind can go do other things. That object is a physical sensation. And it might be different on a inhale and exhale where that sensation is. And it might be different in 5 minutes from now. We'll count 15 breaths, anchoring ourselves, our mind to that sensation. And maybe notice what the mind found intrigue in. Is it still the breath, or is it the travel of the day, or what's to come, or what's happened? And that noticing, we want to reinforce that. So don't get bummed out, get rejoiceful if we notice the mind has moved. We'll drop the counting. If you're ready to move on, drop the counting. Do the practice following the breath. Becoming aware of at minimum, the exhale and the pause, the transition and the beginning of the inhale and the end of the inhale. Transition, beginning of the exhale, end of the exhale. One of the places we can find that intrigue is catching the end of the exhale, where the mind often leaves the object. So without going into too much spotlight, without scrunching our forehead, noticing one of the places of intrigue, what happens between the exhale and the inhale. And now, what if we added the transition after the inhale? What's that experience like? Is there a moment of suspension? Or is it one continuous flow? Not analytical, just noticing. Now, what if we found every moment in between those, the fascination of maybe not even the moments, but being able to keep the minds on all of the moments. It's a like it's a game, perhaps. And again, not too much spotlight. Relaxed, open, noticing. And then try to add a component of noticing any sort of good physical or mental sensation, or connecting to the love or the magic that some people spoke about in their heart. Kind of more purposefully induce that by thinking of someone that you love, respect, act of kindness that you might have seen or done, or some sort of just physical blissful experience. See if you can diffuse the experience like that, like water in a sponge. And take a last minute to reflect, go over the experience, mentally journal for a moment. And make a nice dedication and create an intention for your day. What how can you bring your practice into your day? What's your daily practice today? Or who's the person to really be mindful around, or that we can help out? What situation do we want to be mindful in? What motivation do we want to carry? Something like that. And that gives us a little bit of time to share how it went. I'm super curious. Or we could do something different. Hold on a second. I could show you my family cabin. This is where I got last night. So this is morning time, Port Angeles, Washington. Um, actually, where we got married last year. So some of you have been there. Um, place dear to my heart. Okay, how did it go? Thoughts, reflections. What was there something that kind of worked? Should we talk about Krishnamurti more? Yeah, I'm stack. Not taking for granted that I know what the sensation of breath is or feels like. Like letting it be fresh, new today.
Yeah, and even just that prompt of maybe it's a thought, just the invitation. You don't necessarily know what it will be in 5 minutes. Uh, that curiosity, and then really trying to find the sensation of the absence in the pause without going down the thinking about it.
Yeah. Barry gave you a big thumbs up.
I gotcha. And
Any
then
other?
soaking like a, go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Soaking like a sponge. It's overwhelming. And there was a lot of emotion. So I wonder how you practice when tears flood in or like awe floods in and the object is the sensation of breath. And it's almost like almost like a distraction. Like, but I wanted to hold them together. And I wonder how you practice with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, that's a big question for 1 minute before the end of class. Uh, but I think that idea of, um, it being like the water in a sponge, or letting that pervade the awareness. Letting that, I don't think we need to shut it out. And I think it can actually enhance, I mean, I think it can be very beautiful. I think it can really enhance the experience. The problem can be when we get into the story of it, as opposed to the experience of it. And I think those are different things. So I would think about that. Um, because those states will come up. And I think at first it's so profound, or it can be so um, oh my God, that it then becomes the object, or it kind of grabs our attention to analyze it or think about it, or um, yeah, I would think of it like water in a sponge. I think that's a good metaphor. I want to quickly talk about a program that we have, because this is a program that we developed through Yoga Studies Institute. This is a program that Nicole spent a lot of time on, and we worked on to create together. And giving credit where credit is due, mostly her. And it really is designed for, the people that have been going to MindLab or 3 Joules breath meditation, or that have had a practice of meditation and want to take the next step. And to me, it fits in this theme really beautifully, because it's creating that interest or that intrigue in what levels 5 to 7 are like. For me, I remember there being a hesitancy to really go to courses or to study levels that I wasn't on, and I think it's a mistake. And I think it kind of doing that broadened my horizon about what those levels are, and then they become more normalized, and then they become something that, oh, I can do that. It's not some sort of vague thing. Nicole, did you want to unmute? I saw.
I was just saying goodbye to Matt.
Oh, okay. It becomes this thing that's known, or that has a description, or it has a idea behind it that has clarity, that it's like, oh, okay, that's the next steps. And that's the process to getting those next steps. And that's what those next steps will be like. So the course started yesterday, and we did a review. So there's still time to jump in, but the time to jump in would be now. It is a 4-week course. We do it twice a week, Monday and Thursday. And if there's a financial strain for anybody, just reach out, let me know. And if there's somebody that you think that this course would be really good for, the window of opportunity this time around is closing. So we have recordings of the previous, we did a whole preview, 2-day preview of the program to get people caught up. And there's recordings of the first session. I think it's I think it's a very rare opportunity. There's not a lot of people that teach these in the world of meditation. So I think it's a great opportunity. If you're interested, there's your links. If you know somebody that's interested, as I said, the window of opportunity is closing for this round. We will hopefully do this again and again and again and again. Anything you want to add, Nicole?
Just thought it was so good to see so many of you there, and I love your backgrounds that you have today. Yeah, I mean, this course is for you guys. Like, nobody is more prepared and set up for this than you. And I really think only practicing stage 1 to 4 limits us, or creates a mental block. And you can easily travel to the deeper stages of meditation. You just need to learn the obstacles and apply the antidotes. So hope to see you there if you're not signed up already. It's going to be awesome. I'm super pumped about it. Love you all. Thanks for practice today.
Well, thank you, Nicole. All right, friends. Want to wish Anthony and M Stack, they're heading out to a retreat. I wish you all the best with that. And look forward to catching you, hopefully, until retreat starts. But if we don't see you till the flip side, then have a fantastic retreat, and really look forward to catching up with how it all went. And for everybody else, we'll be back at it Thursday. And we'll be back at it Thursday at a later time because of the map course. So MindLab becomes 9:45 till 10:30 Eastern time. So we'll start 45 minutes later. Okay. So you can go back to back from the map to MindLab. Cool. All right, you guys, have a beautiful day.
Thanks, Earle. Maya, see you in 24 hours or so.